Hello, everyone. I am Ron Freeman, the co-founder of Everything Senior Living, and we are joined today by Matthew Rose up in Sonora, California. He is the Director of Community Integration at the hospital there in Sonora. Welcome, Matt.
Thank you, Ron. Thank you very much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. So your title, sorry for not fully getting it. So what is a Community Integration Director or Director of Community Integration at a hospital?
That is a fantastic question. When I applied for the job, I didn't know what it was. It's still very fluid and trying to understand it. The idea is that hospitals as systems oftentimes wait until somebody comes through their doors, and that might be the first time that they interact with a patient. The idea with community integration is to get out in the public and see what's happening with your community and connect with that community in such a way that you can develop relationships and partnerships and friendships. So my job as Director of Community Integration is to get out there and see who's doing good stuff out in that community. Who's quietly working miracles out there and changing lives before those people have to come to the hospital, maybe preventing them from ever coming to the hospital? And how do I help those people? How do I come alongside those miracle workers and make sure that they have the assets they need, the communication they need, and we can develop those friendships? It's the coolest job.
Okay, sorry for being kind of blunt here, but why would a hospital pay somebody to do that when doesn't a hospital just care about when people are sick and they have to come to their location?
It's a tough position to be in that hospitals can keep their doors open if there are sick people. So why in the world would a hospital want people to be well? Well, the people get into healthcare because they want people to be well. The nurses here want people to be well. The doctors do. And there are 1,500 employees in my hospital alone, and I've met so many of them, and their hearts are all in the right place. So, you know, if everybody had their druthers, there'd be no sick people. So what would it look like then? So we're looking at changing the model of healthcare. We're looking at saying, well, rather than being healthcare, what if we were well care? What if we had those resources in the community so that we could help people make choices that affect their health. We can address some health issues early on so they don't become expensive, so they don't become a long hospital stay. So we're looking at changing the business model. It's really an amazing time to be alive in that these aren't just platitudes. These are real efforts to fundamentally change the way healthcare works in America.
So what is the hospital's vision for, what would be a home run for you as the Director of Community Integration?
Oh man, a home run would be this. This is a great question because I don't think I've actually ever put this into words. But a home run would be to optimize Sonora and Tuolumne County and other counties in such a way that that longevity was the norm. And I'm not just talking about long lives, but long happy lives, long healthy lives, in such a way that people, their kids want to live here. I'm selfish. My kids are growing up here. I want them when they grow up to want to stay in this area because I want to continue that friendship and that love with my kids, have them close by and have grandkids and family. And so a home run would be to create a model of longevity in Sonora, Tuolumne County, that could be sustained and iterative, that we can reproduce this in other counties up and down California. That would be a major home run.
Well, see, that's what fascinated me when I was up in your area a few years ago and we were chatting and you were telling me about longevity, but that it's more than just living a long life.
Right.
It's longevity with health. How
That's right.
do we live longer and be healthier in those years? Which, as you can see from the gray in my hair, I'm caring about this more and more as time goes.
I'm getting a little gray too. Yeah, exactly, right? So as we see that clock ticking, we get a little more curious about these things. Well, how does does that look? Because right, a lot of us are afraid of. Sure, we might reach 80, 90, 95, 100 years old, but what do those final 10, 15 years look like? We wonder about that picture. So, and I'm just some guy. I certainly can't change society. I could barely change my own decisions, right? So how can we attack this issue? It looks like the human body is really designed to last 90 to 100 years, and it looks like Americans are leaving 12 to 20 good years on the table. And so we really began to look at that. We wound up in in an amazing partnership with a business called Blue Zones. Blue Zones is amazing. They've looked at so let's look at the whole planet. Is anybody doing it right? Is there any societies out there that have those long happy lives, that those last 10, 15, 20 years are full of joy and connection to the family and happy memories and meeting your grandkids and your great grandkids and your great great grandkids? And it turns out there are societies and towns and villages in this world that appear to be doing it right. They have they have they've reclaimed those good final 12 to 20 years. So that was all started. Blue Zones was started. There's a guy named Dan Bettner, and he is a health activist and a writer, journalist. And in 2004, he was set to look for these places on Earth that are doing it right. And as he began to discover them, he literally marked with like a blue Sharpie on the map where these were, and that's how these became known as blue zones. So he was looking at the blue zones on the map, like, oh, these people are doing it. So he found about 5 places on Earth that are doing it right, and really began to study those people. And from there, kind of came up with the blue zone projects, um, blue zone terminologies and goals and that type of stuff. So Adventist
I'm curious.
Yeah.
I don't mean to quiz you on it. Do you remember where those 5 zones were? I'm really curious where they were. Were any in the United States?
I remember some of them. Hopefully I'll get them all. I'll try. And yeah, one of them is the United States, which is amazing. So one of them just recently is in the news. Sardinia, Italy, is a little province in Italy that has maybe 1 case of COVID-19. Everybody's still outside, walking around, doing their normal business, and they attribute that healthy response to COVID to a lot of the blue zone activities. So that one's there. There's one in Greece. There's Okinawa, Japan. So 3. There is Costa Rica. There's a little town in Costa Rica, and the one in America is actually Loma Linda, California. And in Loma Linda, they have the key to long, happy lives there.
Well, my follow-up question is pretty clear. So for those just joining, we're here with Matthew Rose, the Director of Community Integration at a hospital in Sonora, talking about blue zones. And you just mentioned an area in California. What are they doing to help people live longer and healthier during those final, what you were saying, 10 to 15 to 20 years?
Right. Yeah, I think life expectancy is about 78. 90 seems to be a target for people, but 100. A lot of these blue zones have an abundance of centenarians, 100-year-olds, who are out chopping wood still and using their garden and walking to the grocery store and that type of stuff. So yeah, one of them is Loma Linda. What they found is that these places had several qualities in common, about 9 qualities in common that led to longevity. And so a couple things they're doing, and it's not like you would think. Of course, it's diet and exercise, right? Everybody's diet and exercise. Yes, but it's the moderation, or it's the expression of those diets, the expression of that exercise. So there's moderate exercise. So like I talk about having a garden. A lot of people, for just their lifestyle choices, would be to walk to the grocery store, rather than ride in a car, or to have a garden or some outdoor activity where they're maintaining a fish pond, or they have this moderate sort of exercise, um, and they tend to have more of a plant-based diet. It's not anti-meat, it's not vegetarian, but we tend to lean more towards plants and beans and have smaller portions of meat. These societies tend to have this all in common. Um, they they all have all five of these places have a strong faith base. They have a spirituality, connection to spirituality. So in Loma Linda, there happens to be a large amount of Adventists. Adventists tend to be conservative Methodist sect of Christianity, and they take their their Sabbath very seriously. So the Sabbath starts at 6:30, I believe, on Friday evening, goes on through Saturday. And so they have this break, this real break in all of their stresses and all of their worries. And all of these societies have that break. They have a moment of peace. They have de-stressors. And stress causes so many of the ailments that Americans are up against these days. And it turns out having that break and having that spiritual connection helps these tightly bound tribes to de-stress and to connect with each other. So these are the types of traits that we're looking to reproduce. Challenging people. What's their connection? What's their purpose? Purpose is a huge part of it. They wake up with purpose. Each of these in Okinawa, Japan, they wake up and they know their purpose first thing in the morning. For some of them, it's to see their great-great-grandchild. That is them a breath of heaven. Some of them have described that. So these traits aren't. It's not like a diet plan. It's not like an exercise plan. It's really nudging our natural proclivity for activity just in the right direction a little bit. So if you have a choice to ride a bike down to the store, let's make that choice a little easier for people. If you have a choice to see your grandkids today and you can do it, let's make those choices a little easier for people. And that's kind of what Blue Zone is about.
It's interesting. One characteristic that you did not list is isolation and loneliness.
Yes, exactly. And it seems to be, I read a statistic that about 20 years ago, the average adult American had three best friends that they could connect to. And now the average adult American has 1.5. So isolation is chronic. Loneliness is chronic in our country. And we've come to think of it as the norm. But each of these blue zones, not only do you just have 3 best friends, you have a mini tribe. You've got your 5 best friends. That's been your team since, almost from birth until you all are an average age of 102. You've got your best buddies. And I think we've lost that a little bit. That's something that I've certainly been striving to help my kids attain. Saying, those are your 5 buddies. Remember their names, remember their birthdays, check in on them, ask them those questions. How you doing? How are you doing right now? Rather than, hey buddy, what's going on? They really connect because that's your tribe. And every single one of these blue zones has that. The people who live the longest have more than one best friend. They're not alone.
That's interesting. I recently wanted to share something. So I'm not on social media very often. And so I wanted to reach out to those that were closest to me. I had this event happen in my life, and I went to text them, and I found that list of people was one person I knew I met when I was 12 years old, and he's still a good friend of mine. Another gentleman who I met when I was 18 years old. I met him in college, so I reached out to him. And then it was 2 guys that I met when I moved to where I currently live, and I've been here for 20 years. So I met them pretty early on my time in this area, and they've been good friends ever since. And that's 2 of them don't live in the area, which is hard. But texting has saved those relationships. Without texting, I'm afraid those relationships would have set apart. So
go ahead.
Anyway, so I was just kind of and we just wanted to share that. So I would agree with that. I need that tribe. Um, as we get older, I think the need, I think it's easy to create those relationships the younger we are. But as we get older, it becomes a little more difficult. I had my in-laws. I was talking to them one time, and we were talking about when they were entering their more senior years, who helped take care of them. And my wife and I said we'd love to, but you live, 8 hours away, so it'd be very difficult. And they were pretty young when we were having this conversation, and they said we invited them to move near us, and they said okay, and moved up here. And not that I didn't want my in-laws near me, but I asked them, why are you doing it now? We're offering to help when you really need it. And there was great wisdom in what they said. They said we want to move in up now so we can begin developing community.
Excellent.
So we can begin developing those friendships. So
Excellent.
in the blue zone concept and what you're doing, is there anything in particular or strategies that you guys have in mind to help us stay connected with people, or any help there?
Yes, right now we're working on processes. We're working on assessing, we're doing asset mapping basically in each of our communities, find out what's available now, what's happening now, and then what does optimal longevity look like? What does your town want to be when it grows up? What's happening next? Where do we want to go with that? And from there, we would develop processes to accomplish those logic models. We're going to attach our goals to these logic models, and then a process to do that. And so I couldn't tell you something specific for Sonora that I'm working on to connect families, but but we are approaching those. Like, how do we? One of it is what is it? Adverse childhood experiences, ACEs, right? Measuring those. So there's a metrics. You'd be interested in this, Ron, as a data collector. There are, say, 10 events that could take place in a child's life that if 4 of those 10 or 3 of those 10 are checked, that happen to you, the chance of loneliness and self-medicating as an adult, as a grown-up, is like 80-90%. And so we can address some of these adverse childhood experiences early on and prevent them and create that unity in a family. Or if those events take place, you don't let it fester, and we figure out how to help those families connect early on. So it's certainly something that we are looking to address, and really encouraging community. To me, it's important to not have an us and them mentality, but that that the police department and the hospital and the churches and the stores, we're all this community together. The restaurants and everybody we're all this town. And so how do we cultivate that attitude of how do we get more bike trails, or how do we have more parks? How do we do that, rather than sometimes our attitudes can be like, well, how come you haven't put this in yet? So getting that unity together is something we're working on. We're talking about basically a ripple effect. How do you come in and maybe talk to the leadership in a community and talk to them maybe about blue zones, and talk to them, how can we all get on the same page, or at least a very similar page, or in the same book, on moving our community forward so that we connect better. More opportunities for families to walk together in a park. It's amazing how healthful that is for our relationships. So I don't have a specific process in place right now to address that. We know that those are issues through our health needs assessments. We can see that those are issues that need to be addressed. And what I love is that the hospital's talking about this, right? We're not just waiting for somebody to come to the door. We're like, how can we make more bike paths, or how can we get more fresh vegetables at the farmer's market, or get people to the farmer's market, or can we have affordable housing near a bike path, near a farmer's market? Like, wouldn't that be cool? And so we're working on projects like that right now.
I just want to commend Sonora and the hospital you're with, and that group of hospitals, for such forward-thinking philosophy and investment and dedication to it.
Thank you, Ron. I'm excited about it
That's
too.
awesome.
When I first started working here, it's Adventist Health. Adventist Health System has about 20, 21 hospitals. and their motto or their slogan is, or their missions on the wall, and it's living God's love by inspiring health, wholeness, and hope. And I like that, and that's a mission that I could certainly adapt as my own, something I believe in. But I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. I was like, okay, but really, is that really it? Right? So like, how is it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Right. I've worked for many different companies and organizations, and the the mission always sounds amazing, and I'm sure it was developed in sincerity. And this is a place where I'm like, that's cool that they actively live it and teach us how to live it. So when this time came, we're going through a sheltering in place type of reaction to COVID right now, and I wondered. Then right here's where the rubber meets the road, and for them to say, no, well, listen, we are going all in on becoming a well care. We're going to certainly have healthcare be a part of it. So there's smart people putting together that business model, saying, listen, we're going to be well care, and when people come in for healthcare, we're going to be able to provide that too. How do we do that? And so I've been tickled to see behind closed doors, seeing how these, what that plan's going to look like. I sleep well at night, except when I'm giggling, because it's exciting to be on this fundamental transformation of healthcare. I'm proud to be a part of it, and I hope that for me, I don't want to be certainly don't want to be the weak link. I want to be the one that's an avenue or a doorway for these connections to take place. So, I know that the public education is in need of some new tech, because everybody's learning from home now. Well, I know that this other company has tech sitting on their hands they don't know what to do with. So how do we connect these people? It's exciting to me.
I love it. So for those listening, we have people listening from all over the country,
Mhm.
and not many are in Sonora.
Right,
So blue zone sounds like it's not just the Sonora area.
right.
How would somebody learn more about the blue zone concept?
Well, of course, you can always go on YouTube, put in Blue Zone. You'll see Dan Bettner doing a TED Talk. That's great. It's about 20 minutes. It's how to be 100 plus, something like that. It's a really nice nugget to get you to understand sort of the 50,000 foot level. There's a great book called The Blue Zone Solutions, and that one is fantastic. It's a blueprint on how to do it, how to change your community. What's lovely to me about blue zones is that, okay, so great, we're going to wait 10 years for my town to change. There are things that you can apply right now. You can your house can become a blue zone, right? So how do I make sure that I'm connecting with my tribe every day, that I'm expressing some sort of faith, what can I do for my community today? How can I just nudge my diet over a few more lettuce leaves and a couple fewer chicken nuggets, right? How do I just nudge my choices over? You could set up your house so that those good choices are slightly easier to make. So that's something that you can choose yourself. And what I love about that is that when your family's over, it's going to be easier for them to make better choices as well. So there's certainly the global level or the California level or the Sonora level of blue zones. How do we do this stuff at the macro level? But today, right now, this morning, I chose to go for a walk. I chose to walk my dog. Right? That's me living out blue zones right now. That's me deciding, man, I love this. This bacon cheeseburger is fantastic. Yeah, I'm gonna try and just eating 80% of it. Just making a little nudge on myself, because there's no way, me personally, I would be a hypocrite if I told everybody to never eat a bacon cheeseburger again, because they're amazing. So, and I want one. So what I love about it is that it's an environment choice. It's not something like you have to do this, have to do that. Just help yourself uh, get closer to those, make it easier to make slightly better decisions, and for your own spiritual and your own mental well-being. That's what leads to long, happy lives. So that would be it. I would check out YouTube. I would check out the book, and I would ask myself, well, what can I do today to kind of nudge myself toward making more healthful choices?
That's some outstanding advice. Thank you for the sharing the resources with us. Something I've always believed. We are either going to live by default or we're going to live by choice
Yes.
and intentionality. So you need to be intentional and not just let the defaults of this world make your choices for you.
Yeah.
And that leads to that actually leads to heart attacks. That leads to other health issues that land you in a place of ill health that have a dramatic impact on not only yourself but your loved ones and everyone around you.
That's
So
absolutely right.
what you're sharing totally resonates. I appreciate it. Matt, I'm going to let you go. I got to tell you, man, speaking with you is always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you.
It is fun. I love your intellect
Thank you.
and your insights and this new adventure that you're on as the community integration director and Blue Zones. I would love to invite you back another time to share
I
with
would come
us
back
some more
anytime, Ron.
about this.
Yep. I will give you an update on what's going on. I'd love to talk to you more about it. So, and let you know how it plays out.
Wonderful. Why don't we set up the next one for 15 minutes from now, and we can
Let's
see
do
what
it.
developments you guys have made in 15 minutes. I'm really excited
That
to
sounds
hear how
good.
well you guys have moved forward in
Sounds
that
great.
time. So once again, Matthew Rose up in Sonora, Director of Community Integration. Thank you for joining us here at Everything Senior Living. I'm Ron Freeman, the co-founder of Everything Senior Living, and we wish you, everyone, the best health and the best chance at being in a blue zone
Yeah.
and being healthy for a long time. So
Excellent.
thank you again, Matthew.
You bet.